The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched high above the assembled delegates. Thousands of species filled the vast space, their forms as different as the stars themselves. Some floated in tanks of liquid, others stood on multiple legs. A few existed as clouds of glowing particles, but all of them watched the human ambassador with the same expression, pity mixed with contempt. Jiho Kang stood at the speaking platform, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the simple gray uniform that humans favored for diplomatic meetings. No weapons, no armor, no threatening gestures. He looked like a teacher about to give a lecture, not a representative of a species that some called the galaxy's disappointment. "Honorable council members," Jiho said, his voice calm and measured. "The Draken Empire has now conquered 17 systems in 3 months. Billions of lives have been lost. Entire civilizations have been erased. I come before you again to ask for intervention." Ambassador Thelrax clicked his mandibles together. The insectoid chairman of the council looked down at Jiho from his elevated seat. His compound eyes reflected the human's image 1,000 times over. "Ambassador Kang, this council has heard your pleas 4 times now. What do you expect us to do? The Draken are powerful. They respect only strength. You humans speak of peace, but the galaxy operates on different principles." Jiho remained still. "We ask only that the council enforce its own laws. The Draken violated the non-aggression treaty. They have committed war crimes on a massive scale. If we do not stop them now..." "1. You cannot stop them," High Commander Vorn interrupted. The massive reptilian creature rose from his seat in the Draken section. His scales gleamed like polished armor under the chamber lights. "You soft-skinned creatures should not even be on the council. You have no real military. You cry at the death of single individuals. You make art and music, while warriors conquer the stars." A ripple of agreement moved through portions of the assembly. The predator species, those who had evolved as hunters, nodded their various heads. The Draken had been aggressive, yes, but they were strong. In the galaxy, strength mattered. Hana Park stood in the human observer section, her jaw tight. She had been a soldier once, before becoming a diplomatic attaché. She knew what the council could not see. She watched Jiho's shoulders, waiting for the signal that never came. "Commander Vorn," Jiho said, his voice still level, "humanity asks only for peace. We have been members of this council for 200 years. In that time, we have never started a war. We have never broken a treaty. You have never done anything of consequence," Vorn roared. "Your species is weak. You colonize a handful of systems and call it an empire. You build research stations instead of fortresses. You send diplomats instead of warriors. The Draken Empire spans 400 systems. We have earned our place through strength." Thelrax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a sigh. "Ambassador Kang, the council sympathizes with your position. But we must be realistic. The Draken Empire has the largest military force in this sector. If we attempt to intervene, we risk a larger war. Perhaps humanity should consider the benefits of joining the Draken sphere of influence. Many species have found prosperity under their protection." Quote, Jiho was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, Kyungsu Lee shuffled through data on his tablet. The military analyst looked up, catching Jiho's eye. He gave the smallest shake of his head. "Not yet." "I see," Jiho finally said. "So, the council will not act?" "We cannot act," Thelrax corrected. "The situation is regrettable, but the galaxy is not a gentle place. Perhaps this is a lesson your species needs to learn." In the Draken section, Vorn laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber. A lesson indeed. Humans think they can survive in this galaxy with their weak emotions and softer instincts. They will learn what happens to prey animals who wander into predator territory. Hana's hand moved to her side, where a weapon would have been if the council allowed such things in the chamber. Old instincts died hard. She forced herself to remain still. Jiho bowed slightly to the council. Thank you for your time, Chairman Thelrax. I will relay your decision to my government. He turned to leave, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Ambassador Kang, Thelrax called out. For what it is worth, humanity has been a valuable member of this council. Your art and culture have enriched us all. We hope that the Draken will be merciful in their dealings with your people. Jiho stopped but did not turn around. Merciful, he repeated, as if tasting the word. Then he continued walking toward the exit. The council session ended. Delegates began filing out, their conversations a buzz of different languages and sounds. Most barely spared the humans a second glance. What could they do? They were a minor species, barely worth noticing except for their strangely emotional music and their peculiar insistence on diplomacy. Hana caught up with Jiho in the corridor outside. Kyung-soo was already there, his tablet glowing with incoming messages. It's confirmed, Kyung-soo said quietly. The Draken fleet just entered the Sejong system. They're surrounding the research station. Sejong Station. 40,000 human civilians. Scientists, families, children. It was one of humanity's oldest colonies, a peaceful outpost dedicated to xenobiology research. The station had no military value whatsoever. It was, by any measure, an easy target. Jiho touched his earpiece. Open a secure channel to Admiral Donghyun. Authorization, Kang, 77 Red. The channel opened immediately. Admiral Donghyun here. I'm watching the Draken fleet. They have 200 warships. They're hailing the station now. What are they saying? Jiho asked. The usual. Surrender or die. They're giving the civilians 1 hour to evacuate to the planet below. Then they'll destroy the station as a demonstration of Draken power. Hana closed her eyes. Orders, Ambassador? Jiho was silent for a long moment. In the distance, they could hear Vorn's laughing voice as he spoke with other delegates. The sound carried down the marble corridors, full of confidence and contempt. How many warnings have we given the Draken? Jiho asked. 3 formal warnings through diplomatic channels, Kyung-soo said, checking his records. We warned them after their first violation of Council space, again after their attack on the Plexian homeworld, and a final warning when they crossed into human-claimed territory last month. 3 warnings, Jiho said. He pulled out a small device, no bigger than a coin. It was marked with a single red button. Humanity does not give a 4th warning. He pressed the button. Across the galaxy, on ships and stations, in military headquarters and civilian government buildings, humans received the same message. It was only 2 words, transmitted in every human language simultaneously. 2 words that had not been broadcast in 200 years. Protocol Reaper. Hana felt her breath catch. She had trained for this. Every human had. From the age of 10, every human citizen underwent mandatory military education. They learned tactics, weapons, survival skills. But they also learned restraint. They learned to be peaceful, diplomatic, kind. For 2 centuries, humanity had chosen peace. That choice had just ended. Jiho looked at Hana and Kyung-soo. His expression was the same calm, measured look he always wore. But his eyes had changed. They were colder now, calculating. It was a look that Hana recognized from her military days. It was the look of a predator, focusing on prey. Contact the station, Jiho said. Tell them to respond to the Draken ultimatum. The message should be simple. You have been warned. This is what happens when you ignore those warnings. And then? Kyung-soo asked. Jiho turned back toward the council chamber, where the delegates continued their casual conversations, unaware that something fundamental had just changed. And then, Jiho said quietly, the galaxy will learn what we really are. High Commander Vorn watched the human research station from his command throne aboard the battleship Conqueror's Fist. The station floated peacefully in space, its lights glowing softly against the darkness. It looked fragile, defenseless. Easy. All ships in position? Vorn asked. Yes, Commander, his tactical officer replied. 200 warships surrounding the station. Their sensors show no weapons, no shields, no military vessels in the system. Just some cargo ships and civilian transports. Vorn's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. Broadcast the ultimatum again. 1 hour for evacuation. Then we demonstrate what happens to those who refuse Draken authority. The message was sent. Vorn expected pleading, begging, desperate calls for mercy. That was what prey species did when cornered. Instead, the response came quickly. In a calm human voice, High Commander Vorn, you have been warned 3 times about violating Council space and human territory. You ignored those warnings. This is your consequence. Vorn laughed. Consequence? You soft creatures speak of consequences? You have no military. No weapons. Nothing but your pathetic words. You'll see, the human voice replied. Then the channel closed. Vorn frowned. Something in that voice bothered him. It was too calm. Too certain. Like someone who knew something he did not. Commander, the sensor officer said, his voice suddenly urgent. The station. Something's happening. On the main display, Sejong Station was changing. The outer hull, which had appeared to be simple metal plating, was splitting apart. Sections retracted, revealing what lay beneath. Weapons. Hundreds of weapons. Railguns, missile batteries, energy cannons, torpedo tubes. The entire station was a fortress disguised as a research facility. Impossible, Vern whispered. Commander, the cargo ships. The peaceful civilian vessels that had been drifting in the system suddenly lit up with energy. Their hull plates fell away like shed skin, revealing sleek warships underneath. Their power signatures spiked, showing reactor outputs that matched Draken battlecruisers. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments. How many? Vorn demanded. 50 ships, Commander. All military grade. Their weapons are. Commander, their weapons are more advanced than ours. Aboard the human flagship Defiant. Admiral Dongyun sat in his command chair. Around him, his crew worked with quick efficiency. No panic, no fear, just the calm precision of people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. All ships, this is Admiral Dongyun. You have authorization to engage. Show them what we are. Throughout the human fleet, weapons came online. Fire control systems locked onto targets. Marines prepared for boarding actions. And in the bellies of the warships, fighter craft launched into space like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. But the real shock came from inside the Draken fleet itself. Commander Yuna had been waiting for months. She and her team had posed as diplomats, cultural observers, trade representatives. The Draken had been so confident, so certain of their superiority, that they never suspected. Human teams had been placed on 70 Draken ships during goodwill tours and cultural exchanges. They had smiled and taken notes and asked innocent questions, and they had planted themselves like seeds, waiting to grow. All ghost teams, Yuna said into her concealed communicator. Execute. On 70 Draken warships, human operatives moved simultaneously. They emerged from hiding places in cargo bays, maintenance tunnels, and storage compartments. They had weapons now small, efficient, deadly. They had maps of every ship, memorized during their months of patient observation. They knew where the reactor controls were, where the weapon systems were, where the command centers were, and they knew how to destroy all of them. The Draken never saw it coming. Aboard the Conqueror's Fist, alarms began screaming. Commander! Internal breach on decks 4, 7, and 12. Armed intruders. What? How did they get aboard? Unknown, Commander. They're moving toward engineering. Vorn roared in fury. Send all security teams. Kill them. But the humans were not there to die. They moved through the Draken ship like ghosts, striking fast and vanishing before defenders could respond. They used the ship's own layout against its crew, setting traps, blocking corridors, turning the vessel into a maze of death. In space, the battle had begun in earnest. The human ships moved with a grace that shocked the Draken commanders. They did not fight like other species. They did not line up and trade shots in orderly formation. They swarmed, they flanked, they coordinated attacks with a precision that seemed impossible. Minho, the tactical coordinator, watched the battle from his station aboard the Defiant. His screens showed every human ship, every Draken vessel, every weapon, every movement. His mind processed it all instantly, seeing patterns, predicting outcomes, directing forces. Task Force 7. Break left and engage the cruiser group. Task Force 3. Target their flagship's engines. Fighter Squadrons Alpha through Delta, create a screening pattern, and protect the station. The human forces responded instantly. No debate. No confusion. Just immediate action. A Draken captain, watching his fleet being torn apart, sent a confused message to his commander. They fight like a single organism. How do they coordinate so perfectly? The answer was simple. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had learned every form of warfare. They had studied every tactical doctrine. They had refined combat into an art form. And now, united against a common enemy, they brought all that knowledge to bear. The Draken had numbers. They had strength. They had courage. But humans had something else. They had the cold calculation of creatures who had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain. They had the patience of hunters who could track prey for days. They had the ruthlessness of survivors who had endured ice ages, plagues, and wars that nearly destroyed them. 30 minutes into the battle, 70 Draken ships went dark as human teams seized their reactor cores. 20 more broke formation as their command centers were captured from within. The rest found themselves outnumbered as human reinforcements arrived, more ships that had been hiding in the system, waiting for this exact moment. Vorn stared at his displays in disbelief. His fleet was being destroyed. Not in a grand clash of titans, but systematically, efficiently, like prey being taken down by pack hunters. "Commander," his communications officer shouted. "The humans are hailing us?" On screen, Vorn snarled. Admiral Donghyun appeared. He was an older man, his hair gray, his face lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and cold. "Hi, Commander Vorn. You demanded surrender. Now I offer you the same choice. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or continue fighting and be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." You lied to us," Vorn roared. "The Council said you were weak. You showed us only peace. We showed you what we chose to show you." Dongyun replied calmly. "We preferred peace, but you chose war. This is what human war looks like." That, RD Dongyun. RD Dongyun. This is treachery. Deception." "No," Donghyun said. "This is strategy. This is what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. When you think kindness means inability. You saw what we wanted you to see. Now you see what we are." Vorn looked at his tactical display. He had started with 200 ships. Now he had less than 80 still functional. And the humans were barely damaged. "How?" he whispered. "How did we not know?" "Because you never asked the right questions," Dongyun said. "You never wondered why a species would choose peace if they could choose war. You never considered that maybe we had very good reasons for that choice. You thought we were prey. You were wrong." On the Conqueror's Fist, Commander Yuna and her team reached the main engineering deck. The Draken crew fought desperately, but the humans moved with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, they had control of the ship's reactor. Yuna opened a channel to the bridge. "Commander Vorn, this is Commander Yuna of Earth Special Operations. I am currently standing in your reactor room. I have placed charges on your power core. You have 3 minutes to surrender before I turn your flagship into a very expensive firework." Vorn slumped in his command throne. Around him, his officers waited for orders. But what orders could he give? His fleet was broken. His flagship was compromised. The humans had outmaneuvered him at every turn. "Stand down," he said quietly. "All ships, cease fire." Across the battlefield, Draken ships powered down their weapons. Human boarding teams moved in, securing the vessels with quick efficiency. Not cruel, but not gentle either. Just professional. Admiral Donghyun watched it all from his command chair. "Contact Ambassador Kang. Tell him the first engagement is complete. Total victory. Minimal casualties on our side." "Yes, Admiral. And the Draken prisoners? Treat them according to the regulations. Medical care for the wounded. Food and shelter for all. We are not monsters." The officer nodded and turned to carry out his orders. Donghyun looked out at the captured fleet. 47 minutes. That was how long it had taken to destroy the Draken force at Sejong Station. 47 minutes to show the galaxy that humanity was not what they thought. And this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. Displays showed footage from Sejong Station, the battle that had lasted less than an hour. The Draken fleet destroyed or captured, human ships moving with terrifying precision. Ambassador Thelrax struck his gavel repeatedly, the sound echoing through the vast space. "Order. I demand order." The noise slowly died down. Thousands of eyes turned to the human section, where Jiho stood calmly, waiting. "Ambassador Kang," Thelrax said, his voice tight. "This council demands an explanation. You told us humanity was a peaceful species. You told us you had no military capability. You lied to this council." Jiho stepped forward to the speaking platform. Behind him, Kyungsu carried a data tablet. Sumin, a human scientist who specialized in what humans called xenoanthropology, the study of alien cultures. "We never lied," Jiho said simply. "We told you we preferred peace. That was true. We told you we wanted to avoid war. Also true. But you made assumptions based on what you saw. You thought peace meant weakness. You were wrong." A delegate from the Thorian Collective, a species of floating jellyfish-like creatures, spoke up. "But your ships? Your weapons? Where did they come from? Our intelligence showed you had minimal military forces." Dr. Suman stepped forward. She was a small woman with kind eyes. The type who looked like she should be teaching children, not explaining warfare to the galaxy. "May I explain? I think this is a matter of fundamental misunderstanding about human nature." Thelrax nodded slowly. Suman activated a holographic display. It showed an image of Earth, spinning slowly in space. "This is our homeworld. To understand humans, you must understand where we came from." The image zoomed in, showing forests, plains, oceans. Earth is what we call a death world. The gravity is higher than most species prefer. The weather is violent and unpredictable. The native life is aggressive and competitive, and in this environment, humans evolved. The display showed various Earth animals. We did not evolve as the strongest creatures on our planet. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws, or fangs, or armor. What we had was something different. A human figure appeared, running across a plain. We are persistence hunters. We evolved to chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. Our bodies are designed for endurance. We can regulate our temperature through sweating. We can run for incredible distances. We can track prey by following tiny signs in the environment. One in C. The image changed to show a group of early humans working together. But more than our bodies, we evolved something else. We evolved the ability to cooperate in large groups. We could plan, We could communicate complex ideas. We could pass knowledge from generation to generation. Kyung-soo brought up new data. Humans have been at war with each other for our entire recorded history. Over 10,000 years of continuous warfare. We developed swords, spears, bows, guns, tanks, aircraft, missiles, nuclear weapons. We created entire philosophies around the art of war. Names appeared on the display. Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Musashi. These are just a few of the humans who wrote about warfare. We have thousands of books on strategy, tactics, and combat. Our children play games that simulate war. Our entertainment is filled with stories about conflict. One. A Draken delegate stood up, his scales rattling with anger. Then you are a warrior species. You should have declared yourselves as such to the council. No, Sumin said firmly. That is where you misunderstand. Yes, we are capable of warfare, but we are also capable of peace. And that is what makes us different. She changed the display to show human cities, art, music. We create beauty. We write poetry. We care for our sick and elderly. We cry at sad stories. We form deep emotional bonds. We can be the kindest, most gentle creatures in the galaxy. The image split, showing both sides of humanity, one peaceful, one warlike. This is the truth about humans. We are both. We can choose which we want to be. When we are at peace, we are truly peaceful. Thelrax leaned forward. You are saying you can control your violent instincts? Yes, Jiho said. For 200 years, we have chosen peace. We built art and culture. We traded fairly. We negotiated instead of fighting. Not because we were weak, not because we were unable to fight, but because we chose peace. He let that sink in for a moment. Every human you have met, every diplomat, every artist, every scientist, has received military training. From childhood, we learn how to fight, how to survive, how to kill, if necessary. But we also learn when not to fight. We learn restraint. We learn mercy. Kyung-soo brought up more data. Every human cargo ship can convert to military use within hours. Every research station is also a fortress. Every civilian has basic combat skills. We have maintained this level of readiness for 2 centuries while appearing completely peaceful. Why? A delegate asked. Why hide your strength? N.E.T. Suman's expression grew sad. Because we know what happens when violence becomes normal. We have nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times in our history. We built weapons that could turn our entire planet into a dead rock. We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions. We know the cost of endless conflict. She pulled up images of human history, wars, destruction, suffering. We learned a hard lesson. Strength without restraint leads to destruction. The ability to kill without the wisdom to choose peace leads to extinction. So we chose to be peaceful. Not from weakness, but from wisdom earned in blood. But the Draken attacked you, Thelrax said, and you destroyed them in less than an hour. Yes, Jiho said coldly, because we gave them 3 warnings. 3 chances to stop. 3 opportunities to choose peace. They ignored all of them. They chose to see our mercy as weakness. They chose to attack civilians. At that point, the choice was made. We did not start this war. But we will finish it. High Commander Vorn, who had been brought to the council in chains, stood up from his holding area. You call this honor? Hiding your strength? Deceiving us? Jiho turned to look at him. We call it strategy. We call it survival. You wanted us to announce our military capability? To parade our weapons? To prove our strength? Why? So you could prepare? So you could build defenses? So you could rally allies against us? He shook his head. No. We preferred peace. But if you forced us to war, we would fight to win. and winning means using every advantage, including the advantage of being underestimated. Vorn had no response to that. Dr. Suman spoke again, her voice gentle. There is something else you need to understand. When humans form social bonds, we protect those we consider part of our group. For 200 years, we have been part of the Galactic Council. We have made friends among many species. We have formed connections. She looked around the chamber. Some of you have shared meals with human diplomats. Some of you have collaborated with human scientists. Some of you have enjoyed human art and music. You are part of our social group now, whether you realize it or not. Kyung-Soo pulled up a map of the galaxy. The Draken Empire has conquered 17 systems. Most of those systems belong to Council member species. Species that humanity considers friends and allies. The Draken did not just attack us. They attacked our pack. The word hung in the air. Pack. The way humans described their social groups. The way predators described their hunting companions. So yes, Jiho said, his voice hard. We are capable of terrible violence. Yes, we hid that capability while we lived in peace. But now, the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity is not prey. We are apex predators, who chose to be peaceful. And when you threaten our pack, we respond with everything we have. Thelrax was quiet for a long moment. Around him, delegates whispered to each other. Fear was spreading through the chamber. If humans could hide this much capability, what else might they be hiding? What do you want? Thelrax finally asked. What does humanity demand? We demand what we have always wanted, Jiho said. Peace. But peace with respect. Peace with understanding. The Draken Empire must be stopped. They have violated every principle this council claims to uphold. And if the council will not stop them, humanity will. You cannot fight an entire empire alone, Thelrax protested. Jiho smiled. It was not a warm smile. Can't we? You have seen what we did at Sejong Station. That was one battle. One small demonstration of human capability. The Draken Empire controls 400 systems. They have thousands of warships. And we are going to teach them the same lesson we learned in our history. What lesson is that? Thelrax asked quietly. That the species that wins is not always the strongest or the most numerous. The species that wins is the one that can adapt. The one that can think. The one that can turn any situation to its advantage. The one that refuses to give up, no matter the cost. Dr. Suman added softly. We are persistence hunters, Ambassador Thelrax. We do not need to be stronger than our prey. We just need to be more patient, more determined, more willing to do whatever it takes to survive. The council chamber fell silent. On the displays, footage from Sejong Station played on repeat. Human ships moving with impossible precision. Draken vessels falling, one by one. And in the center of it all, the research station that had revealed itself to be a fortress. The galaxy had thought they knew humanity. They thought humans were soft, emotional, weak. They were wrong. And now they had to decide what to do about it. The Draken Empire was ancient. It had stood for 3,000 years, conquering hundreds of species, dominating vast regions of space. Its military was legendary. Its warriors were trained from birth. Its technology was proven in countless wars, and it was about to learn what terror truly meant. Admiral Hana stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Vengeance, watching the tactical displays. Around her, the human fleet assembled in deep space, far from any inhabited system. 2,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of hidden engineering. For 2 centuries, humanity had prepared for this moment. Building in secret, training in silence. Fleet status? She asked. All ships ready, Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Task forces organized. Special operations teams deployed. Ghost Fleet. Standing by. Hana nodded. Open a channel to all commanders. Authorization. Park. 3 read. Across the fleet, ship commanders snapped to attention. They saw Hana's face on their displays, calm, focused, determined. 200 years ago, we made a choice, Hana said. We chose to be peaceful. We chose to build instead of destroy. We chose to offer friendship instead of fear. The Draken Empire saw that choice as weakness. They were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. Today, we show them what humans really are. We show them what happens when you force a predator to fight. Remember your training. Remember your purpose. And remember that we fight not for conquest, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Protocol Reaper is now fully active. All restrictions are lifted. Show them the face of human warfare. The channel closed. For a moment, there was silence. Then the fleet moved. In the Draken capital system, sensors detected nothing unusual. The defensive fleet of 300 warships patrolled in standard formations. Orbital stations monitored approaching ships. Everything seemed normal. Until it wasn't. Captain Nari commanded what humans called the Ghost Fleet, 50 ships equipped with technology the Draken had never imagined. Stealth systems that bent light and distorted sensors, hull coatings that absorbed scanning beams, power cores that could run cold, making the ships invisible to thermal detection. The Ghost Fleet had been in the Draken capital system for 2 weeks, drifting like silent phantoms. Waiting. All ghost ships. This is Nari. Execute Phase 1. The invisible ships moved into position. They did not fire weapons. Not yet. Instead, they deployed thousands of small drones, each one no bigger than a human hand. The drones scattered through the system, attaching themselves to Draken satellites, defense platforms, and communication relays. Then they activated. Every Draken sensor in the system went blind. Every communication channel went silent. Every defensive platform went dark. The Draken fleet suddenly found itself cut off, unable to see, unable to talk, unable to coordinate. And that was when the rest of the human fleet arrived. Admiral Donghyun led the assault. His ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system and immediately began their attack. But they did not charge forward in a simple assault. That was not the human way. Instead, they split into dozens of small groups, each one moving independently, attacking from different angles. The Draken fleet tried to respond, but without sensors or communications, they were flying blind. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before the Draken could return fire. It was not a battle. It was a hunt. On the surface of the Draken homeworld, military commanders tried desperately to understand what was happening. Their orbital defenses were silent. Their fleet was scattered. And now, reports were coming in of ground attacks. Commander Yuna and her special operations teams had been on the planet for months. Disguised as merchants, tourists, and workers, they had mapped every military base, every command center, every critical piece of infrastructure. They had positioned supplies, weapons, and escape routes. They had prepared for this moment with the patience that only humans possessed. All ground teams, begin operations, Yuna transmitted. Across the Draken homeworld, human teams struck simultaneously. They did not attack civilians. They did not destroy cities, but they disabled power plants, collapsed communication towers, and sabotaged military installations with surgical precision. The Draken military tried to respond, but they were fighting enemies they could not see. Enemies who struck from shadows and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Enemies who seemed to know every defense, every patrol route, every weakness. Back in space, Taeyang coordinated what humans called psychological operations. His teams had been preparing for months, studying Draken culture, language, and fears. Now, they put that knowledge to use. False reports flooded the Draken communication networks, reports of human fleets attacking multiple systems at once, reports of Draken commanders surrendering, reports of entire worlds falling to human control. Most of it was lies. But the Draken could not tell truth from fiction. Their own intelligence networks had been compromised. Their sensors were blind. And paranoia spread like poison. Draken commanders began to see enemies everywhere. They suspected their own officers of being human spies. They questioned every order, every report, every piece of information. The Empire began to turn on itself. Within 3 days, the Draken capital system fell under human control. The fleet was destroyed or captured. The ground defenses were disabled. And the Draken government was in chaos. But Admiral Hanna did not stop there. "Target the next 17 systems," she ordered. "The ones the Draken took from Council species. We will return them to their rightful owners." The human fleet split into multiple task forces, each one targeting a different system. They moved with the same devastating efficiency, combining naval power, special operations, electronic warfare, and psychological tactics into a coordinated assault that the Draken could not counter. The Draken Empire had spent 3,000 years perfecting warfare. They knew how to fight other species. They knew how to use superior numbers and firepower. They knew how to inspire fear through brutal displays of power. But humans fought differently. They used deception. They used patience. They attacked weak points instead of strong ones. They turned enemy strengths into weaknesses. They made every battle unpredictable, every engagement a puzzle that the Draken could not solve. In one system, human forces pretended to retreat, luring the Draken fleet into a trap of mines and hidden weapons platforms. In another, they convinced the local Draken commander that his own subordinates were planning a coup, causing the enemy to collapse from within. In a third, they simply waited, cutting off supply lines until the Draken forces surrendered from lack of food and ammunition. It was warfare refined over 10,000 years of human history. Every trick, every tactic, every strategy that humans had ever used against each other was now turned against the Draken. 3 weeks after the war began, the Draken Empire had lost all 17 conquered systems. They had lost 30 of their own systems. Their military was in disarray. Their economy was collapsing. Their citizens were terrified. And the human fleet was still coming. Admiral Donghyun received reports on his command deck. "Admiral, the Draken are requesting negotiations. They want to discuss terms for a ceasefire." "No," Donghyun said flatly. "They had their chance for peace. They had 3 warnings. They chose war. Now, they will learn what human war looks like." "But Admiral, we have achieved our objectives. The conquered systems are freed. The Draken threat is neutralized." Donghyun looked at the tactical display, showing the remains of the Draken Empire. "They need to understand, completely, totally. They need to know that attacking humanity was the worst mistake they ever made. They need to learn this lesson so well that they never forget it." He stood up from his command chair. "Continue the offensive. Every Draken military installation, every warship, every weapons factory. Destroy them all. But spare civilians. We are not monsters. We are teachers. And this is a lesson the Draken will remember for 1,000 years." The human fleet pressed on. System after system fell. The Draken tried everything: last stand defenses, surprise attacks, desperate counteroffensives. Nothing worked. Humans adapted to every tactic, countered every strategy, exploited every mistake. In the Galactic Council chamber, delegates watched the war unfold with mounting horror. The peaceful humans they had known for 2 centuries had become something else entirely. They fought with a cold efficiency that terrified even warrior species. Ambassador Thelrax sent a message to Jiho. "You must stop this. The Draken Empire is broken. You have won. There is no need for this level of destruction." Jiho's response was simple. "We are not destroying them. We are teaching them. When we are finished, the Draken will understand that strength without wisdom leads to ruin. They will understand that choosing peace is not weakness. They will understand that humanity offered friendship. and they chose to make us their enemy. That was their mistake. This is their education. In 4 weeks, the Draken Empire that had stood for 3,000 years was reduced to a fraction of its former size. Its military was destroyed, its conquered territories were liberated, its pride was shattered, and humanity had barely used a quarter of its actual military capability. The galaxy watched and learned. They learned that humans were not weak. They learned that human mercy was a choice, not a necessity. They learned that the species who preferred peace could wage war with a skill that surpassed anything they had ever seen. But most importantly, they learned that humanity was done hiding what they truly were. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every delegate sat in perfect silence, watching the human delegation enter. After 6 weeks of warfare that had reshaped the galaxy, humanity had finally agreed to attend a council session. Jiho walked calmly to the speaking platform. Behind him came Admiral Hana, her military uniform crisp and perfect. Beside them walked Dr. Minji, a human philosopher who had spent her life studying questions of war, peace, and human nature. High Commander Vorn was there too, still in chains, but now as a witness rather than a prisoner of war. His scales were dull, his eyes haunted. The proud warrior who had mocked humanity now could barely look at them. Ambassador Thelrak spoke first. Ambassador Kang, Admiral Park, the Council has witnessed the campaign against the Draken Empire. The results are clear. The Draken military is destroyed. Their conquered territories have been liberated. Their empire is broken. Lover, he paused, his mandibles clicking nervously. Around the chamber, delegates leaned forward. This was the moment they had all feared. Humanity had proven itself to be the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. What would they demand? How many systems would they claim? Which species would they subjugate? Jiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. We want what we have always wanted. Peace. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Thelrax raised his hand for silence. Peace? But you have conquered. We have conquered nothing, Jiho interrupted. We liberated the 17 systems the Draken took from Council species. We returned them to their original governments. We disabled the Draken military to prevent future aggression. But we took no territory. We claimed no tribute. We demanded no submission. But you could, Thelrax said quietly. You could claim anything you wanted. Who could stop you? Admiral Hana stepped forward. We could take whatever we wanted. That is true. We could conquer. We could subjugate. We could build an empire that would make the Draken look like children playing soldier. But we won't. Why not? A delegate asked, confusion clear in their voice. Dr. Minji spoke for the first time. She was older than the others, her hair gray, her face lined with age and wisdom. Because we have been down that path before. On our own world, humans built empires. We conquered. We enslaved. We killed. For thousands of years, we repeated the same pattern. Someone would gain power. They would use it to dominate others. And eventually, their empire would collapse. She activated a display showing images from human history. We fought wars that killed millions. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came so close to extinction that we could see it waiting for us. And we learned something that most species never learn. What? Thelrax asked. That power without restraint leads only to destruction. That the ability to kill does not mean you should kill. That being strong enough to conquer does not mean conquest is wise, Jiho continued. We learned that choosing peace from a position of strength is the hardest choice, but also the most important one. Anyone can fight when they are weak and desperate, but choosing not to fight when you have the power to destroy, that requires true strength. He looked around the chamber. For 200 years, we have chosen peace. Not because we were weak, not because we were unable to fight, but because we understood the cost of endless war. We understood that every death, even an enemy's death, carries weight. We understood that violence creates more violence, unless someone chooses to break the cycle. But you did fight, a delegate pointed out. You destroyed the Draken Empire. Yes, Hana said, because the Draken gave us no choice. We warned them 3 times. 3 chances to stop. 3 opportunities to choose peace. They ignored all of them. They attacked our civilians. They threatened our friends. At that point, not fighting would have meant allowing evil to triumph, Dr. Minji added. There is a difference between being peaceful and being harmless. A harmless creature cannot choose peace because they have no other option. But a dangerous creature that chooses peace, that is meaningful. That is strength. She looked directly at Vorn. High Commander, you saw our mercy as weakness. You thought our preference for peace meant we could not fight. You were wrong. And now you understand the truth. Humanity is peaceful by choice, not by necessity. Vorn lifted his head slowly. His voice was hoarse. I do understand. Too late, but I understand. You could have exterminated the Draken. You could have turned our worlds into dust, but you did not. You destroyed our military, but you spared our civilians. You treated our prisoners with dignity. You offered medical care to our wounded. Why? Because we are not you, Jiho said simply. Because we have learned that becoming like your enemy means your enemy has already won. We could have been cruel. We could have been merciless. But then we would have proven that we were no better than the Draken Empire. We would have become the very thing we were fighting against. Thelrax leaned back in his seat. So, what happens now? The galaxy has seen what humanity can do. Many species are terrified. They wonder if you will turn your weapons against them next. Jiho shook his head. We will not, unless forced to defend ourselves or others. But there must be new rules, new understandings. What do you propose? Thelrax asked. First, the Draken Empire will be demilitarized. They will be allowed to keep defensive forces only. Enough to protect themselves, but not enough to threaten others. Vorn nodded slowly. He had no choice but to accept. Second, the Council must enforce its own laws. No more ignoring aggression because the aggressor is strong. No more allowing conquest because it is inconvenient to intervene. If the Council stands for peace, it must defend peace. Thelrax hesitated. And if we cannot? Crew. Then humanity will, Hana said flatly. We did not want this role. We would prefer to return to our research stations and art colonies. But if the Council will not protect the innocent, we will. Not to build an empire. Not to gain power. But because allowing evil to triumph is worse than fighting. A delegate from a small species, one that had been conquered by the Draken, stood up. You are saying humanity will be the galaxy's protector? No, Jiho said. We are saying humanity will be part of a system that protects everyone. The Council should be that system. But the Council must have strength to back its words, and humanity is offering that strength. What do you want in return? Thelrax asked. Nothing, Jiho said. Except respect. Respect for our choice of peace. Respect for our capability when peace is not possible. And respect for the fact that we are both predator and peacemaker and we choose which one to be based on the situation. Dr. Minji stepped forward again. Let me be very clear about what you witnessed. You saw humanity at war. You saw our efficiency, our tactics, our technology. But you saw only a fraction of what we can do. The Draken War used about 25% of our actual military capability. We held back. We restrained ourselves. Even in war, we chose mercy where we could. She let that sink in. But do not mistake that mercy for weakness. If humanity is truly threatened, if our survival or the survival of species we protect is at stake, you will see what we are truly capable of. And I promise you, None of you want to see that day. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Thelrak spoke. The council must deliberate. But I believe I speak for most delegates when I say, we accept. The Draken will be demilitarized. The council will enforce its own laws. And humanity will be... What? What do we call your role? Jiho thought for a moment. Call us the Guardians. Not rulers. Not conquerors. Just guardians. Who prefer peace, but are ready for war when necessary, Hana added. But understand this. We will only fight when we must. We will not be your attack dogs. We will not wage wars of conquest. We will defend the innocent and stop aggressors. Nothing more, nothing less. Thelrax nodded slowly. Then it is agreed. The Council recognizes humanity as guardians of peace. May we all pray that your services are rarely needed. We pray for that too. Jiho said quietly. The session ended. Delegates filed out slowly, many stealing glances at the human delegation. Fear and respect mixed in their eyes. Vorin approached Jiho as the chamber emptied. Ambassador, I have one question. When you warned us 3 times, did you believe we would listen? Jiho met his eyes. Honestly? No. I knew the Draken Empire. I knew your pride, your belief in strength above all else. I knew you would see our warnings as proof of weakness. Then why warn us at all? Because hope is part of being human. We hoped you would surprise us. We hoped you would choose peace. We always hope, even when hope seems foolish. Vorin was quiet for a moment. And when hope fails, then we do what we must, Jiho said. But we always give hope a chance first. Vorin nodded and turned away. As he was led back to his holding area, he looked back one more time. Ambassador, for what it is worth, I am sorry. The Draken Empire made a terrible mistake. Yes, Jiho agreed. But you can learn from it. Teach your people what you learned. Teach them that strength without wisdom is just brutality. Teach them that choosing peace is harder and braver than choosing war. If the Draken can learn that lesson, then perhaps some good came from all this death. Later, on the human flagship, Admiral Hana stood looking out at the stars. Dr. Minji joined her. Do you think they understand? Hana asked. Some do. Some will. Some never will, Minji replied. But that is always true. Not everyone learns the same lessons at the same speed. I did not enjoy this war, Hana said quietly, even knowing it was necessary. That is why you are a good soldier, Minji said. The day you enjoy war is the day you become what we fought against. They stood in silence for a moment. Will there be peace now? Hana asked. For a while, Minji said. Until the galaxy forgets this lesson and someone else decides to test humanity. Then we will have to teach it again. I hope not, Hana said. So do I, Minji agreed. But hope is not certainty. So we will be ready. We will keep our ships hidden in plain sight. We will keep our warriors trained. We will keep our watch, because that is what guardians do. We will choose peace, Hana said. Yes, Minji agreed. We will always choose peace first. But we will be ready for war if peace is not enough. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had revealed itself. The peaceful species was also the deadliest. The gentle creatures were also the most efficient killers. The artists and diplomats were also the warriors and strategists. And most importantly, they chose peace not from weakness, but from strength. They chose mercy, not from inability to be cruel, but from wisdom about cruelty's cost. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. And humanity would never hide what they were again. They were both predator and peacemaker. And they had shown the galaxy the full truth of that duality, terrifying in war, generous in peace, and always choosing which face to show based on the situation. The day the Council witnessed the full awakening of humanity's predatory mode was also the day they learned what it meant when that mode was turned off again by choice. That was the most frightening thing of all.